You, sir, are a shit pilot. Garbage.
Neil, you got 100 romantic partners. All right, let's go live.
Oh,
so we're
wow.
going live in 2, 1, go. We're live.
Oh, now we are. All right. I like it.
Yeah.
What's up,
Previously
everybody?
we weren't.
Hey. Welcome to the party. FPV Spill the Tea number 10. We got the Betaflight crew here, the people behind the software that we all love and fly. Some of the guys that make it happen. We're going to learn all about them, why they're doing it, what makes them tick.
Yeah, let's do like a quick introduction, right? So, sorry, I was just trying to troubleshoot why I'm hearing our own live stream. So, we have Johnny Five, famous YouTube star with the 12,000 subscribers, and Mr. MBA. He's today as a non-Betaflight expert to tell us sometimes to shut the fuck up, to let us know we're too nerdy today, and all the kind of stuff. So then we got Mr. Karate Broad, and he's an expert in filters. Like, he can filter you, and everything around. And he's a guy just programming, in charge of dynamic filters in Betaflight, RPM filters. He knows all about that. So, and if you want to know why we don't have Kalman filters in Betaflight, like, he's also the guy to answer. So then we got Mr. Steve. Nobody knows what Mr. Steve is doing, but everyone knows he is doing a lot because this is so level stuff. I don't know, Mr. Steve, just quickly, can you explain what you're doing in Betaflight?
I guess it's all the stuff that makes all the other bits work. So when, like, Jan does his filtering, he knows his filtering is going to run on time and so on. So it's all that low-level stuff, talking to gyros, transferring data around, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so all the drivers, the scheduler that makes everything running on the background. So like nobody sees your work, but it's like your work is the most essential, I think. Yeah, so then we got So then we got Mr. Neil. As always, we promote his OnlyFans page. And he's also our second non-Betaflight expert today to tell us sometimes to shut the fuck up a little bit, be less nerdy.
The expert that's not an expert. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, expert that's not an expert, but he's an expert. Then we have Sugar K. He's I googled like a term for that. He's like the guy who is in charge of Betaflight, but like shady, like nobody knows, but he's in charge. What was that? Eminence Grease? Is it the right way to pronounce it?
Yeah, I didn't know that term.
No. I just googled it, so there we go. So, and we have Mr. Citizens News. Where is it? And we have Mr. Citizens News. And in case you didn't know, well, Mr. Citizens News was also on the Chris Rosser channel at some point, and he's the guy we have to thank for like all the latest Betaflight GPS rescue improvement. He is also the guy doing a lot of math and like PID tuning. He's expert in all probably the best guy to check your black box. And he's in charge of a lot of math happening in Betaflight. Is it correct way to say, Mr. Chris, Mr. Citizens News?
I like to think I'm the flight guy. I understand flight, what makes them fly, and so right. I think what I've done is try to make things work and keep the team working together as a happy bunch of guys because we're all very different. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, and I'm very proud of everyone I work with.
Awesome. And so just so everyone knows, of course, we couldn't invite like all the Betaflight crew here. That'd be like way too crowded. I feel like we already have like maybe too many people today, but we'll see how that goes. Of course, we wanted to invite everyone, but people on this live stream, they're not only like this is. There are more Betaflight developers. Like I'm showing on this screen, this is like official team of Betaflight, but there is like way more people contributing to Betaflight, and we want to thank all of them and all the sweet words. But today we are not here to tell the sweet words about Betaflight, right?
Don't forget the world's fastest dev as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe the next time we do, like, maybe we invite, different people, but today it was where is this guy? How do I do that? Let me see. No. Today it was this guy, because he's Eminence Greece, and so he decided who is here today at the live stream.
Oh, so I looked that up just because I was curious. So an Eminence Grays is a person who I'm just using the hooked on phonics, but is a person who exercises power or influence in a certain sphere without holding an official position. So, Mr. Sugar K, would you say that accurately describes you?
Probably, yeah, probably.
All right.
Well, everyone says probably, but Sugar K is like still thinking about how he feels about it, I feel like.
Yeah. So also Mr. Citizen knows.
Oh,
unfortunately,
he's muted.
Who is muted?
Sugar K.
No,
Sugar K is muted.
I'm here.
No,
I can hear
him.
Oh, that's what it is. I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm trying to be all smart, and I just clicked on the live stream. My bad.
I see. So Mr. Citizen knows he's unfortunately has to leave in like 45 minutes or something to do his real job. And so, let's kind of try to address some of the questions to him first, and then, we can focus on some of the other guys. So, Mr. Chris, kind of the first, maybe not so spicy question, but still, how do you feel sometimes that maybe, all the YouTubers get all the glory from your work, but you rarely get to experience exposure? So people don't really know who you are, even though you are behind all the coding and the keyboard.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing Betaflight since it started out with Boris. So I've been around for a long time, but I've had a very busy job and a kind of a very busy life. I'm not a flight person. I'm not in aerospace or any of that stuff. I'm not a coder. I've never been trained in that. So I guess it's really good to have people like yourself and all the other guys who make YouTube videos to translate the stuff we've done out for the users, And I do want to make some videos because I think I'd like to do a series of videos that step people through the tuning process. But they take so much time, and I haven't got the right personality. Yeah, I don't think.
So you never feel like this guy, I want to be this famous too, because some people would argue that you did all. No, all right, cool.
Not for a minute. It's great what you guys do, and I think it's a bit frustrating if sometimes people make inaccurate videos, and I try to stay out of all of the conflicts. I don't think the conflicts we've had have been particularly helpful for anybody. One of the things I think the current set of Betaflight developers have is respect for each other. And we show that because we listen and we respond and we get things done. And it's a fantastic team at the moment.
Nice. All right. So let's do a quick question to Mr. Karate Bro. So Mr. Karate Bro, sudden question to you, very quick. So why you're not developing right now? Why you're wasting time on this live stream? You could be making Betaflight better right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking myself as well. So actually I'm wasting my time.
Yeah, all right. I also wanted to do a quick question to Sugar K. So so Mr. Sugar K, you're not coding in Betaflight, right? Even though you've done a lot of presets, and actually Karate presets are made by you, even though they have kind of a part of Karate Bro pilot name, but they made by you. So what the fuck you doing in Betaflight? How you're operating, and how did that happen?
A long time ago, we started a closed group, which is where the RPM filters and stuff came from, and the dynamic notch changes. I was test flying code for Chris because I live in the same city as him and met him at races and stuff. We would yeah, sorry for CTC snooze. We would come up with ideas and stuff on the way to races and stuff, and then he'd write them in the car in between heats. So and we started a private group just because developing working in public got really noisy whenever we did anything really exciting. And then as sort of there were some changes at Betaflight and stuff, the group became a sort of a nice place for people to work without sort of any of the drama that was going on at the time. And then we started adding people to the group, and then eventually the group became the team. With the old guys who were running the project sort of stepping aside, we ended up taking over. And by that stage, we had enough developers that you kind of needed a people manager. You know, you've got 50 people in that group now, people from other projects and stuff. And the coders like to code, and they don't like the people management side mostly. So someone has to do it. So that's what I do.
This is true.
The relationships with the Chinese and stuff as well. You know, all that stuff is stuff that I've done as well.
Yeah. Well, there was actually a question about the relationship with the Chinese and the other companies, but it's a little bit for later. So we know that Mr. Chris will be leaving us soon, and let's kind of focus a little bit on your work. So, Mr. Chris, like how many hours would you estimate you have spent developing for Betaflight project? Like.
Developing is one part of it, but I think supporting people is another. At the moment, I'm pulling back on my work because I'm old enough to kind of retire a bit. So I'm probably putting 20 to 40 hours a week into Betaflight right now.
Well,
most of that
pullback number. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. I actually spend a lot of time doing tuning for hardcore races, like the World Championship race guys, because a lot of people think tuning is like P&D and stuff like that. It's actually about really fine-tuning the sub-parameters of feed forward and anti-gravity and optimizing all that stuff has helped me understand what makes things fly really well. Not just okay, but really well. And all of those little details then I put back into Betaflight. So one of the reasons why Betaflight flies, amazingly, it just does. It flies incredibly well, is because I've been doing those kind of log analyses and trying to look at any place where things aren't right and make it amazing. And that takes a lot of time. Looking at logs, thinking about things, getting people to fly them again with the small change, and really understanding how every tiny little sub-parameter fits into the big picture. That's what I've done mostly, I think. And then translate that back to code.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was so unexpected answer for me that you said like 40 hours a week. Like that's like a full-time job basically. Like I didn't expect that.
So if you
but I mean, think about it.
Yeah, what do you think the total, right? So 1 year, 40 hours would be like 2,000 hours a year. Over the entire project, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 10 years.
So 20,000 hours could be possible.
See, just if for instance, when Le Mans was working on wings and we found that we could improve the handling of the wings a lot, from Le Mans and my interaction was probably only about 10 or 15 hours on that particular topic. But at the same time, I was doing similar things with 3 or 4 other guys. It just eats into your time. It's a massive commitment. And I'm really proud of what I've done. And I'm really proud of being able to work with really clever, really smart people who get it, and make it all possible. Because what I do, I couldn't do without Steve fixing all of the firmware. When we find gaps in the firmware, he's the one who actually understands it and fixes it. And then I test it. And, you know, Karate brought with his filter work, he understands how they operate, and then I can like check them and triple check them, and we all check each other's work. So the odds that we stuff up has gone down because everyone checks everything so carefully, and the checking is the biggest part. One thing I would just like to say is that we're a data-driven group. You know, we don't approve PRs because the code looks pretty or because it's a good idea. We approve them when we know they work, and everyone checks them. And that's what's made the code so robust and so strong.
So about PRs, I think this could be a question to Mr. Sugarcane. So some people sometimes might think like you guys are too harsh approving PRs. You know, you can think about like altitude hold, that PR that has been created like a year ago, right, by some of the guys, and I think that guy is not interested anymore like in doing that. So like why, for example, that PR hasn't been approved, and why some other PRs are not approved? Like actually, I also experienced, you know, like I do some PR and then freaking Karate brought is like, no, this is garbage, and then I just have to close my PR. You know.
Well, if it's garbage,
how do you explain that? Like, why altitude hold is still not in Betaflight? It's working, right? People saying it's working. So
yeah, but it's not. It just, I think it was. I think the reasons for not approving that were it needed lots of work. Like if it doesn't, we don't want code approved that that increases. I mean, it's not as important now that we have the cloud build system, but like if it's going to increase, if it's wasteful in terms of space and stuff, then you know that's not good. That's not going to get past the team. You have to be efficient with the code. There were just, I think there were questions with that one on the way it was being done, and that it could be executed a lot better. And then he kind of got the sooks. So that happens as well. People don't like the response they get. So yeah.
Well, we're not judging anyone. You know, it's a hard work. So I remember my first PR. My first PR that I made was like reviewed for like a few months, and I was like, what is happening? But then like later I understand every little point you guys made, you know, to finally approve my PR. So yeah, that's a hard work. We got Quick Flash in the chat. I think he's a EmoFlight developer.
And right for all the non-developers out there, that's a pull request, White. Like for the last 2 minutes, I've been trying to figure that out.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Mr. Neil, what is pull request? Do you know what is pull request, Mr. Neil?
Well, I've heard you say it before. I think just based on context clues that it's like, hey, I would like to have a new thing done in Betaflight. That's my guess at it. Now tell me how right or wrong I am.
Mr. Steve, you want to explain to Neil what is pull request? Or you don't?
Basically, it just says, I've got a contribution. I'd like you to review it, and if all is well and it passes our test, then that can then be merged into Betaflight. That's all it means.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more than just an idea, not just like, hey, this would be cool.
Yeah.
No, so what? There's two. So you got issues. If somebody has an idea, something they want to do, or they've spotted a problem, they raise an issue. And then if somebody's actually made a code change and they want to put the code change back, that may be to fix an issue or maybe something else, then they raise a pull request, and then that will get merged back. Well, once it's been approved and so on, it will get merged back. And no one individual can say, yeah, that's approved. We've got rules set that you need a number of people to approve it, and that keeps the quality up. As Chris was saying, and there are other people outside this group very much who do a lot of reviewing, and you know, I'd like to say a big thank you to them because it makes a big difference. Reviewing code can be quite tedious. That helps keep the quality up.
Nice.
Yeah. So there is feature request is when someone opens GitHub and asks like, hey guys, I want you to have a look if you can make this happen. Right? This is just a feature request, and then other developers hop in and try like kind of discuss if they can do that, and what's the requirements and stuff. Then there is a bug report, right? Is when someone opens GitHub and reports, hey, this doesn't work. Could you guys fix it? And then there's pull request, and that's basically when someone has the work done in coding, and he's like asking other developers to check his work, and also other testers to see, if it's working. That's what pull request is. All right, Mr. Neil, can you repeat what I just said?
Well, I think I understand it now. Yeah, these different levels. I like it.
Yeah. So quick
if I can
flash.
Understand it, then probably everyone else out there has it too.
Yeah. So quick flash in the chat says Emu Flight is dead, and he also said that Betaflight could be improved if we do more unit test coverage. I guess that's kind of true. Unit tests are cool, but sometimes Mr. Chris is really struggling with unit tests. Like, you do a lot of good work and then it breaks some of your unit test, and then you're like, I feel the same way sometimes.
I don't know that Emu's dead. I think Nerdcopter's still doing a little bit here and there.
I think I seen his pull request too. So
yeah.
All right, let's move on. Can you guys please help me, Neil or Johnny 5, while I'm like trying to get myself situated here?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious, guys. Like, do you know what % of the world's drones fly on Betaflight? Like, any sort of data on that?
We've got lots of data. Lots.
Yeah.
We probably have more than 95% of the market, more than like somewhere between 95 and 99.
Now, is that total drones in the air, or that's like total hobby drones?
FPV drones.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not into automation and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a statistics. Like I don't quite agree.
It's a little bit broken.
Yeah, it looks
Say it
broken.
again. Oh, this
It's
broken.
a little bit broken. Yeah, sorry. The top 5 targets, but anyway, just continue.
Yeah, but these total builds is correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got
that's every day too.
So that's how many times a person clicks load firmware online in configurator per day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And these are like more than 7,000 every day.
Yeah, it's the average over the last 6 months was more than 6,000 a day, and then like at the moment it's jumping to 10, 12, and then when we release 4.5, it'll probably go up to 15.
Yeah, because people will be reflashing.
Because it's just like a new flash.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I don't know about I would agree with like 95% because it's really hard to estimate. Like what about Ardu pilots, right? Well, because you go buy like a drone from Amazon, like a little drone that flies line of sight, and it has Ardu pilot on it, where you just don't know, right?
Yeah. Most of those are Ardu pilots.
So
companies like that.
But yeah, I guess that's not like a build,
drones.
like
okay. So
build
of
and fly
FPV
drone.
drones,
It's
FPV drones.
somewhat close to DJI drone.
Yeah, let's say freestyle and racing.
Yeah,
FPV freestyle and racing. That's
and probably more than 95% of the FPV drones are on Betaflight, and there'd be a few, mostly in the sign left to world flying INF.
I think, Lemon, what was the statistics for the racing championships that you had?
Yeah, well, you're talking. It was like 100%.
100%,
like
100%.
Yeah, well, for racing championship, I don't think it's fair. It's just like 100% of racers using Betaflight.
No, there was still one guy on Raceflight from Sport Class. I remember we talked about it. So it's 99.9%. There was still, there was still one holdout left. Yeah, but that's pretty impressive. So, I mean, guys, just thinking about that as like, it's almost like quite the responsibility you carry in some way to keep the world's hobby drones in the air, and like, what does that feel like? Do you feel that as a responsibility?
Oh yeah. If you
that's Chris's responsibility.
You feel pretty bad about it, that's for sure. There's been many a sleepless night where you're watching a live stream and somebody makes a comment, and then suddenly you realize, oh dear, and there's stuff to fix. And I know
Yeah,
Chris and I have had some quite lengthy discussions sometimes trying to fix functionality that's been broken and trying to fix things because we know it affects a lot of people. So
yeah, that's wild.
definitely feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of pride as well, quite frankly. If you've done something and then it doesn't work.
Yeah, sorry guys, I got dropped from the live stream for a second. That was the next question.
No, we're good. Keep going, Steve.
I remember probably the most stressful bit for me was I remember when I'd introduced DMAs, which was just a more efficient way of getting data from the gyros, and it all seemed to be working. And then Chris pointed out he had gaps in his logs, and that was sleepless nights for literally. It took a couple of months until we realised it was a bug in the chip. But yeah, the pressure.
I'm so sorry.
So, I mean, I'm going to ask another question just as somebody that doesn't know a lot about coding. It's always been curious to me, like, tell me how this works. You got something that's working, okay? And then somebody makes a little change to the code or some piece, and then it breaks something over here. Like, what's going – I mean, I don't know. I've just always thought that that's wild, or that's got to be quite a challenge to figure out how this broke that.
It can be. It's one of the reasons we have the unit tests that I noticed somebody mentioning in the chat. Because if you make a change and the unit tests all pass, then typically things are going to be okay. It's a good, first defense. But yeah, it can be challenging. It can be quite a puzzle at times.
It depends also on the language, on the programming language. And C is very low level, and you can do a lot of very, very bad mistakes without even knowing.
Yeah. But it helps if you've got the right debugging kit, because you can actually catch things that just sit there using a flight controller. You wouldn't have a clue what's going on, but if you've got the right kit hooked up to it, you can grab the code in the right place and figure out what it's doing. So
would you say, I mean, what are the biggest mental challenges that you guys have faced in the development? Like, not a technical challenge, but like something that just really almost broke you.
Yeah, good one.
GPS rescue.
GPS rescue, huh?
GPS fucking rescue.
Why?
A lot of the Betaflight code has been quite old, and some of it is really, really, really hard to follow. I think I'm a clever enough guy, and I can look at that stuff and I have to take notes, I have to write it down, I have to break it down, and it just it took me like a week or two to think I had vaguely understood all the ins and outs of the GPS code. And then a month or two later, I found I really didn't get it. And even now, even after it's commented up and I sort of understand it, it's the complexity of the stuff that's so staggering.
The fail-safe code, Chris.
Yeah, fail-safe. Well, yeah, fail-safe. That was a nightmare as well. Remember all of the timing challenges, and we would discover that you set a second, and it wasn't quite a second. It was some other time, and so I think that the biggest thing that we've done since 4.3, right up to now, is that we really have fixed pretty much all of that stuff properly. We've kind of gone through and checked all the timing, checked that the fail-safe stuff really works the way it was supposed to have. And the code sort of follows it now. And the magnetometer stuff now works. And, the barometers work. And all of that stuff works. And we're trying to set it all up from the ground up. And I'm sorry for people who want position hold that it's taken so long and we're so slow. But we really have set up the background stuff, the filtering is good, the level mode works, all that stuff. It's the basics. And it's been a really hard couple of years. There's been more development, even though you don't see it, in the last 2 years from the ground up. in Betaflight than you could ever have. The code is much more mature and much more solid now than it's ever been. Yeah.
There's still plenty of old code hiding in there, and the old stuff that hasn't been touched needs fixing.
So these guys talked about struggles in the code. Mr. Sugar K, we learned that you run the people. What's been the most mentally challenging of trying to herd the cats that are the Betaflight developers that you faced?
I don't know. I don't think it's too. I don't think it's bad, frankly. Everyone's pretty good. Everyone gets along. We haven't had any fighting since we sort of took over as the team. I think everyone gets along really good. That mean when adding people to the team when it was still closed and sort of operating in the shadows, we only added people that were cool anyway. So
there you go. That often helps.
And everyone gets along, and works well with each other. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah, everybody brings something different to the party.
Yeah.
So many different aspects. You've got a cloud build system. You've got the website, the filtering, the flight dynamics, the low-level stuff that I do. There's so many different aspects to this, and quite frankly, if you tried to hire a team with this mix of skills to pull together as well as we have for so long, you'd have a challenge on your hands. You really would.
A financial challenge.
I think we have a great question from Mr. Joshua Rice, who is also known to be a sock puppet FPV. How would I help with Betaflight UI? What do you like? Who would be the right guy to answer about UI?
The Discord, we have a configurator channel and the configurator development channel in the Discord. You jump in there and just get to work. I mean, that's how Nerdcopter from Emu sort of started. He was just doing stuff in the configurator.
Yeah.
So, and now he's part of our team.
If you already have experience with JavaScript, then it's right in your court.
Yeah, it's basically JavaScript and HTML and CSS. This is all that. And like I'm not the guy who knows all.
Well, it looks like we just lost Yvonne again. He's really struggling his internet. But how cool is it that we have our new software and we're only losing him? Oh, is he back?
That's pretty good.
I don't know what's happening. Like, I have problems. Sorry, guys. So if I disappear, you just keep going. That's why I have
for sure.
multiple. That's why this software works awesome. Yeah. So developing for configurator, to me, it's kind of quite easy because it's all there and you can like debug it on your laptop or PC. You don't have to connect weird wires and measure electrons on the board. Like, just configurator is easy. So, Mr. Sock Puppet FPV, like, you're more than welcome to join. I think it'll be fun. Yeah. So that was right. That was the question. What was the most challenging moment? Right. I wanted to ask this question to Chris, actually, in particular. Mr. Chris, what was the most challenging mental moment for you, and like why you still like? Have you ever thought about quitting?
Sometimes I think about what life would be like if I didn't do all this stuff. I'd have a lot more spare time. I'd probably fly a lot more because I put so much time into the code that I don't really have time to fly. I think the most challenging times are some of the negative feedback that went around 4 or 5 years ago, where we had external conflicts and internal conflicts, and they really wore people out. They took the heart out of a people who were trying to contribute and just created sort of unhappiness. So I think the hardest thing really is keeping passionate about things. I mean, you look at how old I am, right? And I'm still 100% absolutely committed to this project. For me, this is one of the most remarkable achievements in computer science and stuff. It's a staggeringly complex project to turn bits of metal and a few motors into something that flies, dances, goes really fast. allows you to express your personality and the way you fly and puts you up in the sky. It is so complicated. And yeah, so I think what keeps me going is the fact that I'm old and I can still contribute a little bit. And being around really clever people. You've no idea how much respect I have for my colleagues. And the truth is, I couldn't have done anything. Nothing I did was possible without support and help of the guys here. And that's true for all of us. You know, it wouldn't matter whether it's Zach or Karate or Hasling, whoever it is. We all need each other to back each other up, and we do. So the fact that we're such a good team, that keeps everyone going. And I'll be really sad if I ever have to stop doing this kind of stuff. It's fantastic. I better go, by the way. I have to go do some other stuff now. Sorry.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining. We had a couple more questions to you, but maybe Sugar Cake could address them or someone else.
Yeah, another time.
Yeah, well,
All right.
just thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for putting in that work. I mean, the work that you've done has allowed me to have the passion of my life to be able to fly. So, like, that's really impressive. And it's like it's touched so many people, but I just thank you for what it's done for me in my life. It's been really special. And like in your partial retirement, trying to do 20 to 40 hours a week, that means you have to replace part of it with flying. So you got to get out in the sky. Yeah. Like I'm a big proponent of everybody flying. So get out there. But thank you for joining us.
Right. In the magic hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep well, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Well, now we feel lonely. Look at that.
So one thing that's surprising to me hearing all of you guys talk about the project is, in my mind, my part of FPV I very much consider like a hobby, but I feel like you guys are talking about it more like a job or a responsibility or a mission. Do you guys consider it like a second career? Is it recreational time to you? What is it? Is it how do you consider that time you're spending?
Well, for me, it's both. I mean, it started out as just for fun, but now it's like, oh, it's my hobby, but it feels like a job, which is also not so nice sometimes. But in the end, it's fun. So that's what's driving all of us.
Like
sometimes it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, Karate Bro, like, do you regret? You know, because you could, instead of doing Betaflight coding, you could do like, I don't know, day trading, right? And you would be like a millionaire by this time already. Like, do you regret that? Like, you know, you're obviously a smart guy. You could do very well in day trading.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I feel like, I could fly right now, but then I have kind of, I think like, but I could also code and make Betaflight better. So I don't go fly, and sometimes I feel like I'm maybe missing out on some other parts about life that's fun. But in the end, it's always the same thing, that after release, seeing all the happy faces, you know, flying. Yeah, that's what's kind of keeping me. Keeping me at it and continuing to work into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got Superfly FPV in the chat, and he's also like a big contributor to Betaflight. He's a part of our team. Hey, how is it going, man? Thanks for joining. Yeah, like we gotta do a live stream, maybe just like even separately with you, or maybe with a few other guys later. So cool.
Yeah, code, it's a great challenge. So yeah, it feels like another job sometimes. Historically, I was an embedded software engineer, but since moving into management, this lets me, you know, keep the sleeves rolled up and keep the skills up, which is good fun. And to work with such great people and feel that we've achieved something that's world beating. It is the number one. It really is good fun. But I don't know. Sometimes it gets a bit obsessive. Typically working till 3 o'clock in the morning on this stuff, but it's great fun. It really is. The sense of satisfaction of achieving something like this is amazing.
Yeah, right, Mr. Steve. You're like a big manager of a company, right? Like a software company or something like this, right? But
I
manage
a couple of engineering teams.
Yeah.
This is, in fact, this stuff's really applicable to the kind of technologies I'm working with during the day. So it feels very relevant, and it does feel like another job sometimes, but it's so rewarding. And to actually get out and fly, I don't fly as much as I'd like to, but when you get out and scare some pigeons, it's great fun.
Yeah. So, Mr. Neil, how do you feel? Neil, how do you feel that there are managers out there that actually doing also some work? Because we're always having fun with Mr. Neil, because he's been a manager of like a company, and I was just making fun of him. Hey, you're a manager, you're probably just telling people to work harder and faster.
Yeah,
that's what all managers are doing.
Yvonne thinks the most work I do, like in a day, is like put my feet on the desk. Like that's the most amount of work I do.
No, sometimes you gotta send email to guys like, "Hey guys, you gotta work harder."
Oh yeah, it's real rough. No, for sure.
Johnny 5, I think next question was from you, right? About ExpressLRS. I couldn't really articulate it.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, ExpressLRS is becoming probably the most popular control link recommended to new pilots. I noticed that sometimes they're getting pulled in different directions. Sometimes they're really focusing on adding new features, making it a little bit confusing on where to get started. What are some lessons that the Betaflight team, who is a little bit more matured and kind of on its second iteration of a teamwork, what are some things you can share with those guys on how to kind of prioritize new features versus usability or anything in that kind of realm?
Well, the first thing I want to say is keep at it, because compared to the other protocols, to see that development, the ongoing passion, there are some protocols we just can't support because we don't get support from the manufacturers, and they've just become the de facto standard. So yeah, you develop by trying things, and some things you'll try will prove popular, but I think they've done a pretty good job of always maintaining the old stuff as well. So if you want to stick just flying 250 hertz and just stick with that, it's reliable. It just keeps going. Yeah, there's some new features you can try, but you don't have to. I guess that's the same with Betaflight. You can stick with the things and you're comfortable with, and you can try out the new things. So, for example, when we add a new feature, you might find there's some command line settings you'd use to play around with it. It won't even appear in the configurator for a while. You're not compelled to use it. So, yeah, I think with the ELRS, it's great. There's so much innovation there, but you don't have to get into that complexity if you don't want to.
Yeah, we try to keep the complex things or the new things or the things we're not sure about in the CLI, because most new users stay away from it big time now. There's literally no reason. Like even if you want to back up something, with Ivan's preset backups, there's no need to go to the CLI to load or to create a backup. You only go in there if you really want to get your hands dirty.
And I think the amount of work that's done on things like the RC filtering and so on that Chris was doing, it just works. If you apply those presets as well, it'll just work. And so you don't need to dig around in the detail unless you want to, and that can be fun too.
Yeah, but go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I just think it's really good, that work that's been done, because the CLI is very intimidating for someone that doesn't understand. Like, it feels like you're in there trying to code something, right? And like, so for someone that's only used to like using a computer as like a user and can only click buttons, right? And only is used to like working with an interface, the CLI is like intimidating. So I think it's great as made like Betaflight more accessible or less scary for people, that you don't have to be able to go there to get to be able to get a quad flying well. And so I think that's good work. But I think, so 100%. It's great that you can still go there, but it's good that you can get a quad in the air and flying awesome without having to go there. So
I mean, the thing with the CLI, I think people don't realize is that If you don't know, if you're looking for something and you don't know what command to use, you use the get command, get, and then start type the first word or the name of what you're looking for, and that'll bring everything up. I think now once you start typing stuff, it tends to bring up all the options and stuff anyway with the set commands. But yeah, the get command is your friend, because no one can remember all of the commands in the CLI. It's massive.
Yeah.
So we have a P toolbox guy, by the way, in the comments. So he's a guy who developed the PID toolbox, and he's a pretty cool guy.
Hi,
so
Brian.
I wanted to ask. So I think Mr. Sugarcane, you got an opinion about that. Like, it feels like sometimes that for a lot of people, the hobby is just tuning, not flying. But like, what?
That's a question for PID Toolbox guy.
Yeah,
It's his Discord. The basement tuning and to get perfect set point graphs, and not actually going outside. That's a whole hobby on its own now.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Like, if someone enjoys just tuning, it's just part of the hobby. Same way there are people that just enjoy building not as much as flying, and it's just whatever they find fun. But it's kind of funny though at the same time. I don't know. So
Captain Brian is he's one of the LRS devs. Just so you know.
Nice. He's in the chat.
Nice.
Yeah. You've got his thing posted.
Cool. Yeah. So PID Toolbox says, nah, lol. I don't know what that means. Like, would you agree with me, or like, what's Mr. PID Toolbox? What's your main hobby? Is it tuning or flying? We gotta invite him, by the way, one day just to talk with him about PID Toolbox. I think there's a cool.
He lives in a very cold part of the world, so
yeah. Mr. Sugarcane, since we got you on the screen, I think you was the guy like good for answering the next question. So let me pop up my screen. I'm not gonna do that. Like my software been crashing today. So if you open betaflight.com or you open latest configurator release candidate 10.10, you will see sponsors. How do you feel about that? Like, what is the deal? How to become sponsor, and why you don't afraid, or maybe you do afraid that Betaflight can lose integrity as an independent free software by now adding sponsors?
We added sponsor. The whole sponsor thing was all the companies that are currently sponsors are companies that don't use our software. They're periphery companies like Radio Master and HQ Props, all that sort of stuff. They support us so that the team can develop without having to spend lots of money. At the end of the day, this is free. Our Patreon is really small. And we've got 15 developers in the core team. And now they all get stuff. They get batteries and radios, and through the manufacturers program, we get hardware anyway. So, we shouldn't be paying for, the team shouldn't be spending out of their own pocket to do development for the hobby and the industry. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an industry, and it's a very big one. So yeah, the new partners program that we're working on involves the industry supporting us, so there'll be different names going up there because we have such massive reach too. The website hits over 3,000 visitors a day, and the configurator is 6 to 10,000 hits a day. So why not use that? Why not use that influence? I mean, it's direct marketing, direct engagement with 99% of the hobby. So yeah,
if we didn't have that support, it just wouldn't be viable. I mean, on the shelf behind me there, those little boxes, I've got well over 100 flight controllers for
the library
mixing stuff. The cost of buying all those would have just been been ridiculous, So it really does make a difference when we get the engagement from some manufacturers. Actually, are really, really good to work with. Others not so much. And then as Zach just said, it's the peripheral stuff as well. The fact that we've got people supplying us with batteries, and
everyone flies more now. I think the whole team. I think the whole team gets out and goes flying more, which is good.
Exactly.
So what you're saying, Mr. Zach, is that what if there's a company, let's say Fox here, right? We got Radio Master not directly involved with Betaflight and stuff. They don't do flight controller, right? But what if like there's Fox here, or I don't know, Hobbywing or SpeedyBee just reaches and like ask, hey, we want to be on like your Betaflight page as a sponsor. Like, would that be fine?
I'm working on that at the moment. So yeah, we're trying to get more financial backing from the industry. So, but that'll be coming. So
yeah. So you're not afraid of losing integrity as an independent free software.
It'd still be free. The software is still free, and nobody's forced to contribute. But if the companies contribute, and we can give some money to the developers, then maybe the development wouldn't be so voluntary and so haphazard. You know, at the moment, people contribute on what they feel like, and they come and go. You know, we lose people and gain people, come and go all the time. So it's got too big of a project, and it's too important to the industry to keep continuing in that manner, I think. So,
and it's not just a bunch of freebies we can go out and fly. You know, I've got like an O3 air unit that looks like that. That's never going to get in the air, you know, because it's sitting on the bench with a fan attached to it for development. So, you know, without stuff like this, you wouldn't have the HD OSD. So we need that kind of support. We really do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So by the way, about HD OSD, I think Sugar K, since you are, let me bring you on the screen and we gotta see your honest eyes. So, you know, INAF claims, or some, you know, is it some YouTubers claiming or something, that the INAF OSD is like superior, and that was like a mistake from DJI that they decided to support Betaflight HD OSD instead of INAF. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, we have more than 95% of the users, so that's why DJI support us. You know, unfortunately, the other thing too is that if you turn on absolutely every feature on the OSD, the flight controller is not going to be doing its job. I don't think INAV uses a scheduler like we do that cuts the OSD refresh stuff into small pieces so that they can be managed without killing the PID loop. So if you go and turn absolutely everything on, which is what you see when you see an INAV video,
it still flies.
Yeah, it still flies, but it Steve would be horrified at how late everything is. Wouldn't you, Steve?
I want to
take that, pal.
There were some things, like one of the big problems that we had at one point, for example, was the fact if you turned on the black box login, it really badly affected the flight.
Yeah.
So how can you use that for tuning? So, you know, that kind of timing, it really does matter. You want to be able to turn on an OSD and not have it mess up the flight. You want to be able to log your flight, and for it to be representative, you know, it's still a good flight.
Yeah, the OSD is still one of the biggest tasks in the whole system. Like when we're looking at CPU usage and the scheduler stuff, the OSD is still the one that's really grinding away. The more stuff you have on, the worse it sort of runs.
But do you guys realize, for example, what Steve said, when at some point in older Battlefield version you turn on black box and then it starts flying like, the CPU is overheating or whatever, but like nobody freaking noticed that. I mean, like most of the users were still like black boxing when they need it, and like, you know, yeah, like if someone smart checks the CPU load and black box is like, oh, something is off here, but most of people, they're just, it's fine, whatever. You know, I've been flying Betaflight default since like 4.4, and like it was good. Sometimes I'm doing black boxing. I don't know, it was working.
If you turn the sample rate up too high, it definitely a bit sketchy. I see Quick Flash is saying something about the OSD.
I've seen it. I just wanted to comment on what I've just seen come up there from Quick Flash.
Yeah.
The difference between the implementations is that INAV has 2 pages of characters. Yeah. And they've got lots of different characters in those 2 pages. We've got 4 pages, and we use them predominantly for being able to display stuff in different colors. So like your satellite icon will show up in different colors depending on whether or not you've got a lock. Warning messages can come up in different in different colors because it's practical and it's useful, and it just makes it a more useful, performant interface to tell you what you need to know. It's not about eye candy. It's about getting the information there on the screen that you need when you're trying to fly something in a high performance way. So on what criteria it's supposed to be better is a bit of a mystery to me.
Well, we got Zoe FPV in the chat. She's a well-known pilot for doing crazy 3D stuff. I want to try to do that.
I've never been brave enough.
Yeah.
Look on my fingers, look.
I was thinking I need to like sneakily steal Neil's quad and like make his quad 3D and just see what happens. Like
you're gonna do a video, aren't you, Lemon?
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I need some props for 3D because I was trying to do 3D with normal props and that doesn't work
very well. Yeah, Zoe's got some props.
So let's move to the next question. We kind of touched it a little bit, so I want Karate Brat answer this question. So there are 3 things, right? Flight performance, usability, or 4 things: flight performance, usability, configurability, and automation. Which one comes first? Which one goes last? Flight performance, usability, configurability, automation.
Well, the first...
You know what the first
question.
one is.
Come on.
Well, flight performance for me personally, yeah. But
I think for Betaflight, flight performance comes first.
But I also I don't like when Betaflight is too complicated, and I always try to look how to get to reduce the number of configurable stuff.
Yeah.
But probably first, flight performance. Then what was the other 2?
Usability, configurability, and automation.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, first flight performance, then probably what's the difference between usability and configurability?
Johnny Five, what's the difference?
So to me, the usability is more like user friendliness for new pilots, and configurability is more like more configuration options for advanced pilots.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, then usability, configurability, yeah. And
automation goes last.
You want it to just work.
Yeah, automation. Well, automation is we don't have so much automation yet. Well, the preset system maybe. That's also goes into usability. So
to me, automation is more like return to home or altitude hold or stuff like that. Like,
all right, yeah.
Some users are very like loud and vocal about that, but I think it's relatively small. But it does get some development attention for sure.
Yeah. So Betaflight was always more about racing and flying it yourself. But we're planning to do more autonomous features and automation. But right now it's, well, in 4.6, I guess it has a little bit more of it gets more importance. But right now, not so much. So but we're working on it. So
nice.
So Karate Brat, can you promise us you're gonna make position hold in Betaflight 4.6?
Well, I was already trying to do it in 4.5, but then I was too lazy. So yeah, but I mean 4.6 is probably like 1 year from now. So yeah, so in that time we'll see something.
Yeah,
it's interesting to think about though, like position hold. As like a pilot, it doesn't seem important, right? Like the people that are already flying, if you're a racer or you're a freestyle, position hold and return to home don't seem important. But if you are not already a drone pilot or you only have experience with like a DJI product, like that's like somebody who doesn't know drones and only owns a Phantom, and then they'll tell you like, whoa, it's got return to home. Like I can just send it out there and then I push the button and it comes on back to me. And like, that's like a feature that they think is the coolest about it. And then like, oh, well, can your drone do that? And we're like, no, my drone can't do that. But like I can do power loops and I can do all kinds of stuff that your drone can't do. But like, sometimes it seems like that feature not being there stops a lot of people from adopting it who are not already pilots, if that makes sense.
Yeah. As well, I mean, the most important stuff about flight performance was like in 4.3, from 4.2 to 4.3. That was when flight performance significantly got better. The focus now that flight performance is pretty good is, I mean, I'm still looking at flight performance, but I also did quite a lot of just thinking about it, not really coding, but about the autonomous flight and the tools that we need to do and to achieve that. It's all just in my head, but I gotta start programming it sometime. So I guess for 4.6, it's gonna be the flight performance not so important. So maybe I should change my order of.
Hey, just don't make it worse. The flight performance, and then
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's try to let's try to make it better. Yeah, but from when 4.5 is released, I think we're looking more into automation, flight automation. Yeah, that's probably the most important or most new exciting stuff that's not yet implemented in Betaflight.
The unexciting stuff would be more refactoring of old code that's messy and horrible.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, this is true. Like, like sometimes we have a beef with INAV, but sometimes I look at the INAV code and I see in some places INAV code, probably in some places it's worse, right? But to be honest, but in some places INAV code is kind of easier to read. And so we have to deal with it. And hey, like if you're out there, you can help us. Like, there's ChatGPT now and all this cool stuff that can help you figure out what the heck this code is doing. So
yeah, and a lot of stuff in Betaflight is, well, there are parts that are really good coding wise, and also parts that are Superfly likes to call it spaghetti code, which is, it's a little bit, people stacked stuff on top and on top and on top, and it's sometimes it's a mess, I gotta say. For example, the pit file, it's big.
Hey, so since you're on the screen again, Mr. Karate Broad, why there are no Kalman filters in Betaflight? It was a big thing back in the days when everyone telling Kalman filters are the thing.
Well, I guess we don't need it. Well, for autonomous flying, maybe it could be, maybe we need it to make it work right, but we'll try to. Well, I always try to simplify stuff and to make it more efficient. Kalman filter is really good, and it gets the stuff, it gets the work done. But I just try to do it without a Kalman filter.
So is it please correct me if I'm wrong, like I'm not obviously a filter guy, but Kalman filter can combine some sensors and give you the answer, but it can be also used just as a filter for gyro, right? And I think is it that what Helio had back in the days?
I don't even know. Sorry, but
all right.
Yeah, but there was
one flight controller software that used it before Betaflight. I was one of the developers for OpenPilot, and that used the Kalman filter. And basically, it's a sensor fusion algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's applying weights to say how much do I trust the GPS, how much do I trust the baro, how much do I trust the accelerometer. And it's basically merging together all those sensors, magnetometers, barometers, accelerometers, and it's merging them together to get the best answer. But there's one thing for sure, when that project fell apart, and that was all politics, and I moved to to Betaflight, I was shocked at how well Betaflight flew in comparison.
Carbon filters used in guidance systems as well.
It is. It's basically missile.
Yeah. That's what it's good at. What it's not good at is a single filter, a single sensor.
It's too complicated for single
Yeah.
filter stuff.
It's basically, you can get the same performance out of a PT1 filter, and it's less code.
Yeah. So, like, how do you explain that Betaflight is so popular now in all these flight controllers that you can buy off shelf? And like, why it's not iNav and why it's not Clean Flight? Why Betaflight? You know what I mean? How Betaflight achieved that?
Probably because of the way it flies. You know, it's got the best flight dynamics. There's absolutely no question of that. I mean, I don't even see in the future the flight dynamics improving massively because they're already so good. I think there'll be just simplification of things. You know, hopefully we rework the RC filtering and feed forward code so that you don't need to tell it what radio link you're using. It just works it out because it can work that stuff out. But
that'd be sweet. But also, like, the Chinese manufacturer that making flight controllers, they don't really fly, right? Like,
yeah,
I think you gotta be like
electronics either.
You gotta be like a decent racer or a good freestyler to compare like Betaflight versus iNav and versus like, otherwise they all freaking fly the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think actually it's quite simple to set up. I think that the UI is also very simple as well. You know, I think, you know, people complain that it's complex, but I don't think it's that complex. You know, to get flying is reasonably straightforward with Betaflight, and to get flying well is definitely easier than most of the other projects have ever managed.
I think one of the reasons Betaflight's popular is because it works with any flight controller. As I say, I started out with OpenPilot, but then I was able to run Betaflight on those same flight controllers, and that just made things really easy. And you can configure Betaflight to run on just about anything quite easily, as long as the underlying processor is supported. So we've got a huge range of different flight controllers we support. And that never used to historically be the case. So with other softwares.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing that Betaflight has, we can like, the project allows every company, like even a small flight controller developer, to just do a pull request and apply his new target, and then everyone can use that target. Like, you know. Yeah, I agree. So let's move on a little bit to the next question. I don't know who I want to ask. I'm just gonna pronounce the question, articulate it, and see who wants to answer that. So what's your relationships with like a Betaflight competitor, so-called? Like, have you ever tried Keys? Have you ever tried Flight One? Like, have you ever tried EmuFlight? Although we just had EmuFlight developers saying EmuFlight is dead. Like, what's your take off?
I personally haven't flown the others because I've spent so much time flying Betaflight. As I said, I started out as a test pilot for CT Snooze, and that was like, he's quite a prolific coder. Him saying that he does 40 hours a week, that's him backing off. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's 100 hours a week. Once he's got an idea in his head, he'll stay up all night for a week to get it done.
Chris is the most modest person you will ever meet. He
is, yeah. He's definitely unique in the hobby because he understands flight dynamics and can code. And I think also when it comes to black boxes, the black box logging and stuff, he can see the code in action. Like, he can visualize the code and he can visualize flight performance in the black box, whereas most of us just see squiggly fucking lines. So he is 100% the best tuner in the world because he understands.
I agree with that. But did you kind of dodge the question? Like, have you ever tried Keys? Like,
no. As I said, I haven't had time.
All right.
I haven't really sort of had time. I don't fly anywhere near as much as I used to. I know Superfly. He's prone to flying everything. So
he's one of the Betaflight crew. Yeah. And, I also tried Keys, by the way, guys. If you're interested, like what I'm thinking about Keys, kind of versus Betaflight, even though it's not versus, there is a big heart. Keys love Betaflight, or Betaflight love Keys. So there's a funny video about me trying Keys and setting it up. So Yeah.
One thing I did like, I've always respected from the original KISS was that they never tried to market themselves by attacking Betaflight, which unfortunately other projects have done. So that's, in my opinion, you want to do something different, but you don't need to be a dick about it,
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not the developers attacking each other. Like we all value each other work. Sometimes it's just YouTubers that
Yeah. And there's always tribalism around, and this hobby's full of tribalism, behind brands and projects and stuff. Like it's crazy how fast it pops up and how fast it turns into something kind of a bit gnarly.
Yeah. So
too many dudes.
Karate Broad, have you ever tried to fly keys or flight one?
No, unfortunately not. Just Betaflight, so I don't even know how it flies. But I heard a lot of good stuff about KISS, for example, and Emu Flight. So, but I've never flown any of them. Sorry. So I only know Betaflight.
Yeah. Now you need to go to KISS Discord and apologize for not flying KISS. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
So, Chris already answered this question that he is not like a professional developer, and I think he's a doctor, right? I don't think it's a private information. He's like a doctor for people. So, what about you guys, Karate Broad? Are you a professional, like coder, developer, or what's the deal?
No, actually, I'm studying physics. Just ordinary physics, and I started coding on the side as a hobby in 2015. So when I joined Betaflight I guess that was when Corona hit, it was in 2020. Yeah, I already had like 5 years of experience under my belt, and several lectures in university about program design, and so I was coding in C++. I started with Arduino. By the way, that's a really good way to start in embedded programming. So then I just played around, did some little projects with sensors and ESP 8266, ESP 32, stuff like that, and then then I did something that I could use for dynamic notch filter, and so that's when I heard that Betaflight may need some help with a dynamic notch, and that's exactly what I did for one of my hobby projects. So that's what I how I got into the project, and just by starting it as a hobby, it's still a hobby, but I think programming is even it's more fun than physics, in my opinion. So,
it could be, it could be for sure.
Yeah, the fast foray transform algorithm that was invented in the 1800s.
Yeah,
it's
even way before computers.
Way before computers, yeah, and it's such an important thing.
Yeah, also in physics. Yeah.
Do we have? Oh yeah, Zach, you're from Australia, right? Is it real?
Yeah.
Like
Australia
is real?
Yeah. It's real hot at the moment, actually, but it's cooled down a bit because the weather's being a bit shit.
Is there can you show black box or something that is Australia is real? I don't know. I've never seen Australia.
Pretty real.
We just recently discussed that Betaflight team is all about data. I've never seen data about Australia. I need black box or something, Yeah. The latest black box explorer. If you have GPS on, it will show you the path of your flight. So maybe that would be a proof that Australia is real. Mr. Sean, Heart of America FPV, and Mr. Sean is that question was also from someone we suspect to be a sock puppet FPV. So there we go. So Mr. Steve, why Betaflight has so many bugs?
I think that's a bit of a loaded question. That's the spiciest question you've asked yet, I think. Betaflight, obviously, you know, it's advanced stuff, it's the bleeding edge. So yeah, as we develop stuff, obviously, we develop in the open. You know, we make changes, we invite people to test. They're going to find bugs, and hopefully, before we hit a major release, we've nailed them all. Most of us developers are flying master, you know, the latest development build all the time. So we're risking those bugs. But then when we get to do a release candidate, that's for the wider community to help us thrash out the final bugs. And as we get to a final release, considering the complexity of the code, I think there's remarkably little wrong with it by the time we get to release it. There's always going to be the odd corner case, but I think considering its complexity and the number of people that have been involved over the years, I actually think it's pretty damn stable.
Yeah, we got to take into account that it's open source and that we are all just working in our free time on it. So it can't be bug free without checking for hours and hours and days and weeks. So
what code out there is bug free? You show me any piece of paid or software that's not got bugs in it. Like it's.
I mean, like Boeing software.
Like anything. You know? Boeing software. Yeah, that's more of an accounting issue from what I can tell.
I don't know. Sounds like
in charge of Boeing, and he started cutting corners.
Sounds like excuse, Mr. Sugarcake.
What's interesting about the RC phase is that's when people go and do things like so. When someone comes up with a feature, we all test it as it's meant to be used. Right? If the feature's supposed to do this, so this is what you do with it. But once it goes out into the public, that's when people start doing silly things or weird things with stuff, and that's where the fringe cases come up. Like the public testing is very important because they're the ones that do things that we wouldn't think of with the code, because they're always you know, there's some people out there that just do some crazy stuff. And that's how you find those edge cases that don't turn up when you use the code like it's meant to be used.
Yeah, I want to add also that that for testing, Betaflight crew is relying on the community, and that's what RC phase is for. And you can even test pull requests to just hop in and on GitHub and like start testing pull requests, right? And you can test nightly builds and report bugs about nightly builds. It's all community, obviously. We have kind of a lot of people in the team, but not all the people, you know, we're all working on the free time. So we're always welcoming testers, like join Discord, start discussing and testing. And and if you want to be a tester, I think kind of join occasionally for testing. I think it's important to know that proper reporting of the bug is very important. It's not like, you shouldn't be like, oh, OSD is not working, you know, because then Mr. Steve would be like very pissed, like, you know, what, like how, like I need to know the steps to reproduce it, right? What did you do? What kind of flight controller? Your diff, your dump, you know, how did you solder everything? Is just important to know. And if the bug you're reporting is like, can you reproduce it? Can you go back to 4.4? What if you go back to 4.3? Just all of this stuff is important. And
first thing we need to do if there's a bug, reproduce it. If we can't reproduce it, it's really hard. But to answer the question on the screen about during development, for me, certainly, most of the time it's hooking it up to a logic analyzer, actually watching the timing of seeing this happens, then that happens, or not. It's very much done on the bench. It doesn't fly until a lot of work has been done on the bench to show that it's actually doing what it's meant to do. And then, yes, we do have the test harnesses because we've got the unit tests, so some things get tested there. There is a simulator, SITL, software in the loop it stands for. So you can actually run Betaflight actually on a PC. But yeah, ultimately, there's not like flying it. So that's when everything starts on the bench.
We got Velocidrone in the chat. I believe it's Mr. Ashley, the developer of Velocidrone Simulator. Welcome man to the chat. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Oh yeah, John. I think that was a question from you about something that what Kebab said. Did I pronounce his name correctly?
Yes. So I remember Kebab saying something about this a few years back. And it was around the time there was a lot of like very cheap, sort of unreliable bind and flies coming out every few weeks. There was a new one. And a lot of times they would just kind of burn up and fail. And his supposition was that if Betaflight charged a licensing fee, even something small like $5 or $10, it would weed out some of these Chinese manufacturers that are just buying like a bunch of used components to like cobble the cheapest thing together that they can like send to a YouTuber, get a video out, and just ship them. And that he was thinking because it's free, it's one less roadblock for them to be able to like do this. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I just was curious what you guys' thoughts were, and have you ever considered a way to kind of regulate or block some of those cheap manufacturers?
I don't agree with the reused component thing. That's bullshit. Sorry, Kebab, but that's just a load of shit. You know what they do? They recycle electronics to get the gold and platinum and stuff out of them, to get the metal out of them, basically by burning them and then chemically. But no one goes around desoldering stuff and fucking putting it on new flight controllers. That's a load of shit. I'm sorry.
And I might have misspoke on that one part.
No, but he has. I know he's pushed that. He's pushed that as.
Even if you wanted to charge. Oh, sorry.
But that's what the partners program is about, is trying to work with. So one of the things I really didn't like when we didn't have any influence with the Chinese at all was that they would release stuff and then people like Steve would have to fix things in the code because they've done something stupid or designed something poorly. There was a lot that basically we never had any interaction with the Chinese originally. They would just make stuff, and then if it didn't work, like flight controllers coming out that wouldn't run RPM filtering and stuff like that because the pinouts hadn't been done properly. So that was the main reason for the partner program that we sort of came up with, is to try and be involved in the prototyping phase of design with the bigger companies and to get better stuff out there. I mean, if we hadn't done that, the new gyros that are on the market now would be unflyable, you know. So we do try to work with companies that want to work with us. And hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of cloning and copying that happens, and hopefully by having better designs out there, at least that filters down to the cheaper companies, because we have no control over those that don't want to engage in us at all, with us at all. There's nothing we can really do about that.
The thing is, we all love the hobby, and we don't want people to be buying crap and getting disillusioned and thinking, "Oh, this is a load of rubbish." So and you know, there are some really good bind and flies. I mean, one of my favourites, actually, Axis Flying Manta. I love it, absolutely love it. It's the best flying out the box thing I've ever had. So some of them are really good, but as somebody mentioned earlier, actually just building them is great fun. Personally, I love building the quads as well. It's been a really good opportunity, for example, to get into 3D printing, and there's so many other things, so many aspects to this hobby that it brings together so many engineering disciplines as well. It's not just software, you know, there's the electronics, the mechanics, and so on. It's personally, I find that really interesting, so I've just got a passion for engineering. So I do appreciate there's a lot of people though don't. A lot of people do just want to be able to buy something, plug in the battery, and go fly. And that's we mentioned before, didn't we, about usability. And the usability isn't just about the Betaflight software. The whole package has got to be usable. So when people, you know, are selling crap, you end up with loads of support to be done, and you end up with people like Chris having to do a huge amount of work in support forums. I admire people who've got the patience to do that. I tend to be working behind the closed doors, not having to solve those sorts of problems. It's only when people have been sort of directed to raise it as an issue or whatever that it'll come to my attention. But it's an awful lot of people out there that need support, and if we can make it easier for them, then fantastic. So yeah, quality's good.
Yeah, if we can influence the industry a bit more which we do now. We do have a very close relationship with them now. One of the things we'll be doing in the new partners program is offering our the guys that are good at tuning with bind and fly tuning. Because I noticed there's still bind and flies coming out with absolutely rubbish tunes on them by some big companies. So I mean, with Chris retired, and we need to keep him out of trouble. So yeah, I mean, a manufacturer bind and fly tuning would definitely be something he'd be very good at.
So we gotta
can be really helpful as well. I've had some concepts I want to try, and Beta FPV, for example. I know some people have badmouthed them, but they've actually created prototypes for me that are one-offs that just help me explore a particular combination of things or whatever, particular hardware feature. We've got really good working relationships with chip manufacturers like ST Micro, who provide us with very early silicon for new sensors, gyros, barometers, magnetometers, and so on.
Yeah, microprocessors as well.
So we've actually got some relationships, right at the, things like for developing the AT32 435. An awful lot of that was just done on this eval card. It wasn't a flight controller at all. I mean, there's a gyro eval card that plugged into it, but a huge amount of the code gets developed nowhere near flight, but supported by manufacturers. So it's really good.
Yeah, Airbot's good as well. They're another company that Airbot's another company that will make anything we ask them for as well. Like Beta FPV are great like that. If we want something made, Airbot make us development flight controllers and sensor boards.
That's great.
Whatever we ask for, it's really good.
They were the first people to put those ST Micro devices actually on board for us to fly.
Yeah.
So these are products that would never hit the streets. You'll never be able to buy them. They're there for us to develop the stuff that means you can then get into the mainstream. So and Zach's done a huge amount of work to work with the manufacturers. A lot of them just never talk to us, and now they are, which is fantastic.
Yeah, this is awesome. Hey guys, we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have some cool questions. Some of the questions are not cool in the chat, sorry guys. But some of the questions are cool. So since we have Mr. Steve.
Spicy questions.
Yeah, so this is a spicy question to Mr. Steve. So Mr. Steve, you're like a manager of development team. And some of the guys in the comments said that that in near future, artificial intelligence will replace all the programming. What do you think about that as a manager? Would you be able to hire artificial intelligence in 10 years instead of real people, or what do you think?
It was quite funny, actually. I had an incident at work where we had a problem and there was a software bug that needed to be fixed. And after it had been done, I spoke to the developer. This was just as ChatGPT came out. And I said, did you try ChatGPT? He said, no, it wouldn't stand a chance. So I just told it to write a particular bit of code for a particular processor. And it came out with something. And he said, but it's forgotten about so-and-so. So I said, fix that bit. And it did. And he said, it's forgotten so-and-so. And it did that. And then the clever bit was I then asked ChatGPT to critique its own code.
All right.
It actually got it to write its own unit tests, critique its unit tests, critique its cybersecurity, and to actually then highlight any weaknesses. And it highlighted a weakness in its code, which was the very thing that had stung us in the first place with this problem. And it was like a whoa moment. And then just for kicks, I asked it to write a poem about how impressed my software engineer was with what it had just done. And it wrote an epic poem. So it is a tool. It will help us without a shadow of a doubt. Will it take over? I'd like to think not. But is it a useful tool that's really powerful? I have actually asked ChatGPT to explain bits of Betaflight to me before, and it's actually pointed me in the right direction. It's got some things wrong, but it's actually pointed me at the right bits of the code. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool tool. I recently had a weird experience with that. like I wanted to do some like math for Betaflight, a little bit of coding. I think Karate Broad saw my pull request, and then I was like, there are some matrices, calculations, multiplication that was like from high school, and it's like I don't remember that. I don't want to like deal with that. Let's see what ChatGPT can come up with, and I asked it to write the code, and it was like, well, this code looks good, so I put it in Betaflight, started testing, and it's like it doesn't work. And then I found one bug in it. And I was also like, in the conversation with ChatGPT, like, hey, this doesn't work. This is why I see it doesn't work. And he's like, all right, let me fix it. But at the end, that was the code of maybe 20 lines. But at the end, I spent 6 hours trying ChatGPT. This was ChatGPT 4 that you pay for. That was 6 hours with ChatGPT back and forth. And at the end, I still like had to like debug everything by myself and found the problem. And then it's like, listen, man, this is where you messed up. And then ChatGPT is like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Like 6 hours later. And then, so it was faster for me to just write it by myself and figure out, probably would be also more healthy for my brain. But of course, ChatGPT helps sometimes. And I'm looking forward for its improvements, because we can do more cool things when ChatGPT helps us to write,
it's not being lazy,
yeah. So I also got a few questions from the email. Let me read some of them. I think this is Mr. Steve will be very helpful to answer this question. So one guy says he's an AI engineer and he's considering to implement computer vision enhanced to rescue feature. I guess it's like GPS rescue. Isn't it even possible to do video processing on the flight controller for analog or for digital? And like, what about FC processing capabilities for that? What do you think?
If you want to do something like that, then I think there are ARM-based, because ST Micro stuff is ARM-based, right? There are other ARM processors you can get which are multi-core, and it would make a lot of sense. You could run Betaflight in one core, and then you could have a higher level application, which basically is just letting Betaflight do the flying, and then it can be doing any other fancy stuff. So to use it as the sort of flight engine within a multi-core processor, possibly to actually implement those kinds of functions within Betaflight itself, it makes no sense.
All right, yeah, and like, how would you approach the accessing of the video feed, like analog or even digital?
Well, that would go into the AI processor.
Yeah, but AI somehow needs to get the video right from your camera. How would any hardware get the video from DJI? Even like, well, I guess DJI would be the most hard.
No, you wouldn't be using DJI if you're doing image processing to fly a drone. You wouldn't be using the DJI camera as the feed. There are other types of camera which can give you, or you might be using LiDAR, for example. You might not be using vision at all. The sensors that it would need to fly would not be what you would like to watch the world go by through. Different kettle of fish completely. The sensors on a DJI drone that stop it bumping into things, they're not the cameras you're looking through.
That's true.
No, these ultrasonic sensors, don't they? A lot of ultrasonic and miniature radar and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can get, for example, there are cameras you can get, which stereo cameras, which will actually create a point cloud, which is a 3D map of what's around it. Yeah, like LiDAR. That would be much more useful to an AI system trying to fly around. You just wouldn't be using the same kind of camera.
That's pretty much what that Swiss university did with the racing drone, with the computer flying. That was the point camera system, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mr. Zach, since you're in the chat, this is the guy with the name Darkman. Maybe it's a black man, that the other developer that's supposed to be joining for a little bit, but he is yeah. So he's asking PID auto-tune functionality when?
What functionality?
PID auto-tune functionality.
Oh, auto-tune.
Auto-tune, yeah.
There's not enough processing power on the microprocessors we're using now to do that, frankly.
Well, INAV does it, right?
But it's terrible. Doesn't work.
maybe we could apply AI to the black box logs.
Yeah. I think that's even something we want to add is the ability to upload logs to our cloud system and to AI process them. Maybe Chris can teach it to tune because he is the guy. But even if that doesn't work, if that is more complex than we can manage, then at least we can use it as an assistant, as like an analysis tool. I think tuning's not the hard thing; it's problem solving. Because a lot of the time when you do tuning with people, especially remotely, 99% of the problem is fixing the build. It's fixing the issues with the quad. Once you fix the issues, tuning's not very hard. If the thing's got noodly arms, or it's got a bad gyro, or electrical noise, or these are all sorts of things. And then PID Toolbox guy talks about this all the time, Brian. The big battle is fixing the problems so that you can tune it.
Exactly. Once you fix the problem, it's like you just apply preset once.
Exactly.
That's your auto tuning. Someone already made tuning for you.
We track a lot of data, but we don't track the preset usage, which is sad because I reckon the karate tune is probably one of the most used presets, given that 99% of racing pilots use it.
Yeah, well, I've been reviewing black boxes lately from lots of racers. They're like, hey, like, can you check what's happening? And like, they're all using Minchen preset. But
that's an adaptation of the karate tune, isn't it? Though originally, especially once we made it a slider tune, you can do what you like with it. It's a good place to start, and that's why it's now a slider. I didn't like sliders for a long time, but I guess they do make life easier.
So the next question. Yeah, go ahead.
I like them now. But you mentioned the presets, but I think when the proliferation of different rates from the ELRS, the 250 or actually from Crossfire times, we had the increasing rates. And then Chris did the work on the RC smoothing. And that was the moment when I realized the value of the presets. Because suddenly you just had these unified sets. Well, I'm using this combination of things, and then everything just worked. And I've never had to worry about RC smoothing settings. So, yeah, I think the presets is
try to build them into the tunes too. Try to the way Lemon's nested everything, that you can call a preset another preset from a preset is great too, because you can add other. Your rates and the radio presets and stuff can all be built into the preset, and you don't have to code them all up, and you don't have to write them all up individually anymore. So yeah, that's pretty.
Presets was a big step for usability, right? You basically you flash the drone and apply a few presets, and you can go fly. It's tremendously more.
If there's no problem with your drone.
If there's no problem.
Well, okay.
Yeah. I think the presets wouldn't have worked the way that they have. The fact that you can in the racing world you can use one preset on 99% of racing drones only exists because of the fixes to the RPM filter that Karate made. That was 4.3. The crossfade. The RPM.
And I think dynamic notch too. The improvement in dynamic notch for 4.3. That's why it's just basically like AI filter, right? It just does the job. You don't know about it.
AI filter.
The one quad I had that I could never tune to fly well was an Arlington Marmot. Horrible resonances. And then when we got the slide-in SFDT and the crossfade, suddenly the black box logs were clean. It just fixed it.
Yeah.
And that was a really problematic quad, and suddenly it just flew beautifully.
I think the RPM. I think the RPM crossfade code was actually a massive improvement, because the problem is no one had looked at what the notch filter did. Like, everyone knew what a notch filter was, but no one actually knew how it worked. And that was a massive amount of work figuring out.
CTZ Snooze, he figured it out. So credits to him.
Thorsten jumped in. Joe Lucid jumped in, who was the RPM guy, and actually confused everybody with his extremely complex descriptions. That was kind of funny because it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages and people talking, discussing the whole thing, and then Karate comes up with 3 lines of code, and the issue was that the notch filters are a noise cancelling filter, and if you set them too low, that takes a very long time for the noise cancelling algorithm to be generated. So you have a signal that's not what you want. And then if you set the Q too high, if you make them too narrow, they ring. They take a long time to dissipate. The signal takes a long time to dissipate. And what was happening on 4.2, you shut the throttle, all the notches crash on top of each other, and then you get this massive spike of noise. And that noise wasn't real. It was the notch filters feeding each other a load of garbage. And that was so it was creating noise that wasn't real.
All right. So, by the way, Mr. Neil, like this was this was your job to say, like, hey guys, you're 2 nerds. Like you gotta you gotta solve that.
It's like borderline, but it's interesting, right? I mean, I think anybody that's hung on an hour and 40 minutes to like us, like talking about Betaflight development, understands where we're at. That we're talking about some nerdy stuff, but I think also everyone here is appreciating it, right? Like, some of it's over a lot of people's head, but we all understand that that's what makes our quads fly. And so, like, whether you get it or not, it's like cool to hear and like appreciate what's happening.
Yeah. So let's move to. I'm gonna let me put this guy on the screen. So, Mr. Sugarcake, can you share how many Patreons we have? How many people donating monthly?
I don't know because I don't have those numbers. That's a
Jay's data.
A Blackman thing. Yeah. But I believe the income is around $1,500 to $2,500 a month at the moment. It's not very much. It's very, very small.
Well, it's better than what I thought because I think it was a year ago the Patreon thing was opened, so you could see how many people donating, and that was like 100 people or something, and less than $1,000. So
yeah, I think it's not. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
And that goes into servers and paying for the servers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And also for
the cloud stuff, all that stuff. None of that stuff is free.
And also for beer for Karate Broad, right?
Yeah, I can show you something that was sponsored by Patreon. That's a little oscilloscope. This little thing that costs $350, but paid for by Patreon. So thanks, guys. Yeah,
nice.
I can use that to measure ESC noise and FC noise. So
yeah, this is cool. I can also, it's too far away, but I can share what I got from Patreons. I have like a special dedicated Betaflight laptop that was I think it was like $500 or something. That I basically, most of my work that I've done for Betaflight comes from that laptop. And when I go to the field, I'm helping guys around and I'm coding right there on the field, testing different things with that. So all of your support is, very valuable, guys. Whoever is on Betaflight Patreon. Yeah,
it's important.
So next question. Why? It's a question from CMYKFPV on our email, which is shit.pilot.live@gmail.com. So why Betaflight developer let Bardwell take credit for firmware updates and improvements? And then a bunch of laughing smiles.
But he gives credit to Josh, Chris Wozler now. He doesn't. It's turned into a bit of a hand me around now, isn't it? With the YouTubers, so one of them comes up with something, and everyone else sort of just points everybody in their direction.
Yeah, I think Bardwell also does. He also gives credit to. He also gives credit to developers sometimes. I think. Yeah. I obviously that's a joke question. So, all right. So, the next question. So, on behalf of the hundreds of thousands people who your work brings true happiness. Thank you guys for the hard work and sacrifices you guys do for all of us. Well, that's not a question, but it's all right. Thank you very much. That was cool to read. Oh, my phone goes crazy. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah. Well. Yeah. This is mostly to you guys because
a flip phone? That's very retro.
Say it again.
Was that a flip phone? That was very retro.
Oh
He's
yeah.
Russian.
Look at that.
He's Russian. It's still 1980 in Russia.
Yeah, it's fancy, very fancy. And sorry, Brian.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
yeah, I like it. All right, I think that's all the questions we have, guys. Do you have anything else to share? Like, you want to say something specific? Do you think we missed some of the topics you wanted to discuss?
I just
please
want
let
to
us know.
highlight real quick, Ivan, that all of the people here and on the project as a whole that you showed earlier have been donating their time for free. So if you're an FPV hobbyist, imagine whatever you do for work, whether you're a nurse or a contractor or whatever you do, imagine donating thousands of those hours of your work for other people to enjoy their hobby. And that's what all of these guys have done. I had been, after Yvonne started contributing features, I remember being at the night spot trying to estimate, like, you must have donated tens of thousands of dollars of development time at this point, and all the guys on the stream have done the same. Based on what CT Snooze said, I'm guessing he's donated like $1 million worth of development time for free so that all of us can do that. So just thanks from the entire community to everybody here that's ever contributed.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I'm pretty small Betaflight developer, so I really appreciate all you're doing, and you inspired like all of me, and CTZ Snooze and Sugar K and Karate Bird
You made the
inspired
preset
me.
system. What are you talking about? You're not a small dev.
It's not my preset system is nothing in comparison with what Steve is doing. That, you know, and it's also a little bit of shame. Everyone understands preset, but nobody freaking understands what Steve is doing, and like it's harder to appreciate, even though it's way more important, you know. And I also feel like I had an interesting thought. So if there's no presets, people would still enjoy this hobby. It doesn't freaking matter. You know what I mean? Like, but if something is broken in the in the driver of gyro or whatever, like, then nobody can enjoy the hobby. So
the great thing about this is it's a team.
Yeah, it's a big team actually.
I've got no interest in developing the UI, but thankfully somebody has.
Yeah.
You know, when I've had to
we even have a website team now.
Yeah, exactly.
We got them from the Discord, and we've got a Discord. We've got a Discord manager and all this sort of stuff as well. Unit manages our Discord. I found Unit and Vitoid, who did the new website, which I think is awesome. The new website and gets a crazy, like, the traffic. We just recently started tracking all the traffic on the website. It's over 3,000 people a day go to the website, because that's where all of the release notes and the wiki is now. So I mean, they did an amazing job of that.
And
we were running out of space in the code. It was hard to squeeze everything in. We'd had our unified targets that were, you know, the 722 and the 411 were really running out of steam because they just ran out of space. And then Jay did the cloud build, and it just revitalized everything. And so there's an awful lot of effort goes into code that never flies. So
yeah,
you know, I really enjoy the stuff that does fly, as does Jan, I'm sure. But there's so much else to it, so much more.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, maybe a special thanks for the guy who was planned, who kind of thought he could join, but he couldn't. This is Mr. Blackman, and so he made the cloud build system that we're enjoying now.
He's also one of the original. He's one of the original guys behind Betaflight.
And nobody knows how he looks, and so I was kind of excited that he joined and showed his face.
I was most excited about that little side tangent. We were going to get to discover who this guy really is.
I've seen him.
I've
seen him once.
So as Yvonne said, maybe a couple people have seen him once. I think, I don't know, he's like secret agent or something.
Yeah, Mr. Blackman, you gotta join next time to show, Don't blur your face next time.
He was with Boris and the other, I can't remember the other guy's name was, who forked Clean Fight. So
real OG.
He owns the sort of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Behind. behind.
All right, guys. I think anyone else has something to say, or then we just close the live stream. And I appreciate everyone who joined the live stream today. Mr. Steve, Karate Bro, not so much Neil, but yeah, Mr. Zach.
But thanks to Neil, I now feel like a shit pilot, and I need to practice more.
That's right.
Well,
That's
yeah.
what's up. You got to. And even if you practice more, you'll still be a shit pilot. Just that we're clear. You can't change that. But knowing that you are is the whole key, right? You just got to know what you are.
Right.
Yeah, then you're good. Well, yeah, thank you guys very much. Appreciate y'all joining. It's been awesome to have you shed some light on like what goes on behind the scenes. Everyone, we really appreciate the work that y'all have done. Like the chat is just blowing up with people saying thank you. So like you guys have really done a lot, and everybody that didn't get to make it on here, that's watching, thank you all for all the contributors. And it was awesome to have y'all. Thanks a bunch.
Yeah, thank you guys. That's gonna do
Thanks
it.
for having us.
All right,
I'm clicking end stream.
Cool.